If you're here, you're a busy professional and you're probably gearing up for one of the most challenging yet rewarding certifications in the world of project management, the Project Management Professional, as known as the PMP certification. Well, you're in the right place. I passed my PMP exam on my first try, and since then I have mentored several project managers through my PMI chapter, helped them to pass their exam on their first try as well. And I get many questions on what are the courses out there, what books should I read, what are the practice tests look like. And today, I'm here to share all the things that I had done to pass my exam, as well as the advice that I've given to my mentees. I've got all my books and my flashcards and the study materials that I've used, so let's get to work. In today's video, we're going to cover 6 items. 1, let's learn the PMP exam requirements. And then we'll look at the required study materials and what are the most helpful books that you need to read. And then what courses are out there, especially the 35-hour course. There are some different options, so we'll go over the one that was most helpful for me and my mentees. And then we'll look at the practical tests, some YouTube channels that really helped. We'll look at some study plans and how long should you study for the PMP exam. And number 6, we'll look at some do's and don'ts, and there are some things that you should do and shouldn't do, so stay tuned for that last part. Alright, the very first thing that we're going to do is to look at the requirements of the exam, especially experience-wise. So there are 2 requirements. 1, if you have high school diploma, you're going to need 5 years of experience in project management, managing or leading projects in the past 8 years. And lastly, 35-hour course. But if you have CAPM, the Certified Associate Project Management certification, you don't need to take the 35-hour course. And requirement 2, if you have bachelor's degree, then you will need 36 months or 3 years of project management experience in the past 8 years. And lastly, the 35-hour course, and if you have CAPM certification, it's the same thing. You don't need to take the 35-hour course. All right, let's take a look at a larger picture of what is your application process is going to look like, because that's a very important part for you to be able to schedule the exam and ready for the preparation. You need to put together your application and submit and get approval from PMI. The general roadmap to your application process until you register for the exam is going to look like something like this. So you create a list of projects you led, and I will show you an Excel sheet and some examples and how you create that. And then you complete the 35-hour online course, which you're going to need the certificate to submit your application. So that means while you're preparing your projects in application, you're going to need to go through your 35-hour course. And once you completed that, you're going to submit the application with your project experience and 35-hour course and your education. And there's a slight chance of getting audited by PMI. Usually 5 to 10% of applicants get audited. If that is the case for you, you will receive an email and they give you a instruction on how to collect some of the experience in your company, your contact information, and get some of the approval. And then once you go through that process, you basically wait for the approval from PMI, and then you'll receive an email and you log into your PMI account, and that's where you will be able to register for the exam. And they'll show you all the available dates and whether you want to take the exam in person or online. And then you register for the exam, and up until the exam date, you usually get 1 year. And within that 1 year, you can also try the PMP exams 3 times. And if that's not the case, and after the 3rd attempt, you will need to start the process all over. The exam fee in 2025 is $425 for members and $675 for non-members. Now let's take a look at this PMP experience tracker. It looks a little busy here, but the general idea here is you're going to need this sheet. I will attach this Excel in the description section so you can download and fill it out as you go. So basically, you're going to need your project name, the organization that you worked with, and your start date and end date of your project, and the time spent on it, and your role, basically as a project manager. And the most important part here is the project description and the tasks you performed. And here you will go through all the projects that you worked on, what were the deliverables, and what are the goals and scopes, and all those information. In the tasks performed section, that's where you will go over the details on what tasks you completed from the initiation up until the closing. And then the project outcome is also important section, but it needs to be brief. You don't need to explain a whole lot of details of the outcome. And then definitely a contact information, email address will be helpful. A common question I get asked is how to track the experience if I had worked on multiple projects within a time frame. So let's take a look at an example here. So here you worked on 2 projects within that 6-month period. So that overlapping part is considered only the length of that projects that completed within those time frame. Even though you worked for 4 months in the first project and another 4 months in the second project, the overall timeline is going to be 6 months. Another thing that I want to make sure to tell you is that you want to make sure to focus on your responsibilities. So using the word I is very important. I know it sounds kind of weird because we all work as a team. It's a team effort. But in this application, they're looking for your responsibilities specifically. So here's an example. I developed a project management plan and continuously worked and communicated with stakeholders throughout the process. So you want to make sure to focus on your responsibilities, and you'll be using the word I throughout your description. Now let's go over the study guides that are the most helpful and you must read. The very first one is the PMBOK Guide, 7th edition. It is the latest one that was published in 2021, the Project Management Body of Knowledge. And then the PMBOK 6th Guide. And the reason that I want to recommend both of them is that there are a slight difference in between. So while the PMBOK 6 is highly technical and they're very process-oriented and goes through detail of how to manage the projects through processes, PMBOK 7th Guide is more flexible and it is quite helpful for managing the projects, the principles of the project management. And the 6th edition is the one that goes through all the ITTOs, which is the inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs. A lot of technical information is in there, so I highly recommend. The another thing that PMI did was when they published the PMBOK 7, they took all the content from PMBOK 6 and divided them up into 2 books. So one of them is PMBOK 7, and the more technical part of the PMBOK is in process groups, a practice guide, which I will share it right here. You will be able to download that practice guide for free if you have a PMI membership. The next book is the Agile Practice Guide, and this is a must read. You're going to read it from page to page, from start to finish, because the latest PMP exam focuses on Agile questions quite a bit, approximately 50%. My next book is The Crow's 6th edition of the PMP exam. I personally think that this was a very good book. Goes in a lot of details, and the one thing that I really liked about it is that each chapter has a notes section. It goes through the hows and whats and tools and simplifies the whole process. So if you are into reading some more simplified and more detailed guides, this is a really good choice. And there's also a link to a video that you can watch, so you can do that. And one of my favorite things of this book is the practice test and the mock exams at the end. But this book is optional. You don't have to buy it if you don't want to, because you're already taking the course and you're going through the PMBOK and Agile Guide. But if you want some extra book and want to go through some details and just take notes, this is a very helpful book. All right, my last book is the PMP Exam Prep Simplified by Andrew Ramdial. And one of the things that I found was that when I purchased the book, I realized that it came with the 35-hour course. And I was so shocked because basically I was thinking of the course is going to be super expensive and it's going to be like a whole process, but I realized that Andrew Ramdial has a whole 35-hour PMP course on his TIA website as well as in Udemy. So if you are looking for a course that is cost effective, this is it. And I believe there is a full-length mock exam at the end as well, and this is very helpful to have. When it comes to courses, there is no one-size-fits solution. I can think of two routes. Number one, if you're looking for more of a live training and you want to have an accountability group, I definitely recommend you to go through a bit more costly, and even if your employer pays for you, that's great. So the PMI.org training, certified training partners, or Velessa Teach, Simply Learn, there are some options. And the second route is to go through more cost-effective route, which that's the route I went. So Andrew Ramdial's 35-hour course on Udemy, and also in his website, which came with the book, so that was pretty cool. That is quite cost-effective, and it's self-paced too. And that's one thing was very helpful for me, is that I can do it whenever I have time in the evening or over the weekend when I have the chance. Think about your learning style and what is the best route for you, your learning preference. Do you like to study by yourself in a self-paced environment, or do you like to have an accountability partner and have a teacher guide you through the process? Another important resource that you want to pay attention to is practice tests and mock exams, because those are your secret weapons. That's where you learn what are you good at and what are you not so good at, what you need to learn more, practice more. So these books that I mentioned have some practice tests and mock exams, so there are plenty of resources there for you. But if you want to go a little bit deeper, Andrew Ramdial's, he has a free mock test that comes with his 35-hour course. And also he has an additional mock exam, and I honestly thought that that was one of the most helpful ones. And the reason is that because it comes with a video explanation of each questions. So he goes over what questions were right, and why was it right, and why was it wrong. And another resource that I would recommend is the PMI Study Hall, and their practice tests were excellent. Mock exams were very helpful too. And I would say the questions in there were a bit harder than the actual exam. It makes sense because it is made by the organization who put out the PMP exam. And another very helpful resource for you is if you feel like you're just kind of tired of reading the book and going through the courses, I highly recommend you to watch some YouTube videos. So I'm going to show you some of those videos that were most helpful for me. One of my favorite channel on YouTube is David McLachlan, and he's such a good teacher, and he explains the parts very well. He goes through the questions and answers, and he explains in such excitement and in such a good manner. So he is an excellent resource there. And another one is again Andrew Ramdial. He also has a YouTube channel, and he goes through these specific questions, and his PMP mindset is something that you definitely want to watch and understand before you get to your exam. And one of my experience was that the David McLachlan's website, I had his like 1 hour long course, and he goes through these agile questions and answers. And I would just put that on while I'm doing my chores or doing something. I would just listen to it. But of course, when you sit down and really pay attention to it, that's the most important. But if you need to multitask a little bit, that is a very good way. Even there were times I would put it on and just fall asleep because, subconsciously, I'm probably learning too. Another tip I want to share with you is to take as much as notes as possible. And if you are a visual learner, it's specifically very, very helpful. And if you don't like writing on the paper, definitely use a notes app on your phone or in your laptop. But it was quite helpful for me to write down these complex terms and these concepts and processes so that I can understand them very well. And these are my little flashcards I created, and these are these terms that I wasn't, familiar with at the time, and I would just write them down and have a little description in the back, and I would take these everywhere I go. When I go to grocery store, if I need to wait in the line, I would just pull these out and go through them, and those are pretty helpful. And I also have my notebook, which if you like to take notes, I highly recommend, but not everybody is a note taker, so take it or leave it. One of the things that were very helpful for me was to go through all these wrong answers and then I would just highlight them and make sure that I understand them concept by concept so that I don't leave anything behind. And I know these may take a lot of time. It feels a lot redundant, but we have to remember that at the end of the day, we are learning a lot of new things through the PMP exam, and you're becoming a lot more knowledgeable and skilled. So take your time and make sure that you're understanding these concepts and being able to apply these into your project management practice. My little study schedule plan, I have several of these papers that I would just put it on the wall and I can see it every day that where I'm at. So basically I would highlight all the parts where all the books that I need to read and the practice tests and exams that I need to take, and I would just check it as I go. How long should you study for the PMP exam? The recommendation out there is maximum of 6 months and minimum of 2 months. For me, it took around 3.5 to 4 months because I had busy schedules and a lot of things going on. But minimum of 2 months is the best. And I know there are a lot of talks about how do we pass PMP in 2 weeks, in a month. Yes, I understand the urgency, but we also have to remember the importance of the certification itself. It's for us to enhance our skills, learn new things, new concepts, and add value to our project management profession. So I highly recommend you to take your time and understand the concepts and the processes one by one and how you can utilize that in your everyday practice. So for 2 months, my recommendation is to, in the first month, try to complete all the courses and read through the guides. And the second month is all about practice tests and mock exams, watching those videos and understanding the questions, and especially if you answer some of the questions wrong, understand why it was wrong and what is the right answer. So just understanding the question is the concept is very important. And maximum of 6 months, yeah, because anything goes above 6 months, it kind of gets old because if you learn something, in the first couple of months and then time goes by, you stop and come back and already forget the concept. So maximum of 6 months is what is recommended. And lastly, I will leave you with some do's and don'ts while you prepare for your exam. So first thing is, do create a study plan with a clear milestone, especially when you're a busy professional with a full-time job and other responsibilities. Make sure to look at your calendar and where can you make that time to do the studying, possibly every single day. And make sure to communicate with your family or your employer or your friends, and so that they know that you are prioritizing this next few months to study for the exam. And take your time, because like I mentioned earlier, yes, you can pass the exam probably in a few weeks, but the importance is for you to understand each concept and utilize that in your project management practice. It's about the long game. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And taking regular breaks is very important because it gets pretty stressful, especially there's so much going on. The study guides they're thick and it's very technical. Sometimes it's hard. That's when you need to take a break and step away from it a little bit and come back. That really helps. And joining a study group or having an accountability partner, even a mentor, if that's something that you look for, definitely reach out to people. And I'm a mentor myself, so if you need help with guiding you through some of the process or giving you the motivation and keep you going, definitely reach out to me. And there are some don'ts that I definitely want to share with you. So don't try to read the Pinbox 6 guide page by page. Yes, there are some recommendations on doing that, but there are other resources you can utilize to understand those concepts a bit faster or in a simplified way, like watching a video, going through the course. And don't memorize without understanding the concept. Yes, there are some parts that you may need to memorize, like formulas, but most of the time, understand the concept and focus on applying how those things be valuable to you. And don't overwhelm yourself with too many resources. There's a reason that I gave you only 3 to 4 resources at a time, because those are the most important ones. Lastly, don't wait until the last minute to take the practice exams or the mock exams, because those are the most important parts that you're going to practice and understand what you know and what you don't know. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope that you found these tips and resources helpful, and I wish you the best luck. And in the next video, I'm going to go over the time management, how to manage your anxiety, how to keep yourself motivated, and how to create a schedule that fits your work and life and all the other responsibilities. So hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video.